This episode of Monty's Minute is brought to you by Netflix. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to netflix.com/GamebreakerTV. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to episode number 21 of Monty's Minute, the show where you've got questions about the video game industry. He's got answers. I'm Gary again. It's February 19th, 2013. Joining me, as always, Mr. Monty Sharma. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Gary. How you doing?
Good. Fantastic. Now, you got a little follow-up to something we talked about in the past here. We got questions about... I think it was last episode or the episode before. I think we might have even had it more than once. And it was particularly about Star Wars, The Old Republic, and the Hero Engine. And I know you got some time in there, so...
Yeah, so, I'd only played SWTOR, I'm going to say, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour before that. It's like, yeah, it's coming out, pop in, try something, see them at a trade show. Never really spent much time on it. And so after all the... comments about the Hero Engine, I went in and I tried it, and I gotta say I was really impressed with the game. The size of the world, I mean, the amount of movement I could do without instancing in was huge. It looked beautiful. The storylines were very deep. It was really quite interesting to me. So from a overall function standpoint, that's what Hero Engine makes possible, and I think they leveraged it very well. It created a nice environment.
Yeah, I think we should actually ask the you guys out there, hey, send in your questions if you maybe had some particular issues with the Hero Engine. Maybe I don't know if we can answer them all or if Monty could answer them, but you could send them in. Send them to Monty at Gamebreaker.tv. I think, I guess I was talking a little bit in pre-show. I think if I remember back, I haven't checked it in a while, but there's quite a few people I think who had some configuration issues and frames per second issues and things like that, where no matter what they were to do to their machines, they just could not get good performance out of it. And I think a lot of that, the fingers were pointed at the Hero Engine. Now, to say that is where the problem lies or not, I don't know how you would really kind of come to those conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to figure it out. So send us what your specific current issues are, and let's see if we can't get some folks figured out. I don't know, but I know people who do, and we'll reach out to some folks, some coders, and that, because if it's sort of a class of problem that people with this sort of hardware configuration or these types of video cards were running into this problem, that's regrettably but a fairly common issue on Windows machines because there are so many dang options. And so, you will find classes of things that just conflict, and people then try and scramble to fix it.
What other show asked you to send in your specific individual problems so somebody like Monty can pull his hair out and go crazy and try and answer them for you? But
it's not like I got a social life. I mean, come on.
Using his connections to find out your problems. All right, let's kick it off with Rock Lobster. He has a question for us. He says, first, I would like to say I love the show. Although people wish they had a magic answer to how to make it big in the game industry, you ensure that we get real down-to-earth answers. Well, thanks for watching, and don't thank me. Monty's got all the answers. His question is, just how far are we from making a game of the same quality as a CG trailer? He says, so often these epic trailers are released, making the game seem grander than it sometimes ends up being. And he understands this for marketing reasons, obviously, but is it possible to have a game of this quality, meaning CG, in the next 10 years, or are we nowhere near making a game that is like what's portrayed in these trailers? Side note, I'm currently serving in Afghanistan, so if you could please answer this question, that would make my day. And thank you for serving, sir. There's your question. Now your answer.
Yeah, no, Rock Lobster is actually a paratrooper. So he is one tough guy. And kind of neat. And, you know, actually, we talked about this a while ago of former military folks. They actually tend to make really good producers. You know, if they're not into programming on the production side, there's a lot of skills there. So when you come back and there aren't planes to jump out of for money, you know, let us know. So the CG question is interesting. You know, when I first started thinking about it, went down the path of, okay, so what's the resolution on a game? What are the, you know, what CGI rendered at? And then as I looked into it, it really comes down to a thing of CG graphics, you know, for cutscenes, for trailers, it's rendered in a different way. It's using raster graphics. And so when it does that, you're rendering at a higher quality. When you're in gameplay, you actually have to render it in such a way that people can move around. So you're rendering almost in real time for some of these things. And so what you find is where we are with games now, like some of the games today, gameplay-wise, look really, really nice, and they're as good as the, you know, computer-animated movies that we used to see in the 90s. You know, the same quality, the same resolution. Now, the thing is the animation side of it, the rendering side, because you can put a render farm, you've got a whole bunch of servers cranking away to make it look that good. Technology will keep going. Everything will look better, but the cutscenes and that for the foreseeable future will always look better than gameplay, even though gameplay constantly looks better, and it'll be at the quality of what we're seeing out of Pixar. And except Pixar will do something better. Hair will look more natural. Water will look better. Reflections, you know, all that stuff.
So you're basically saying there'll always be an offset there, but. So how many years, is there a way to gauge like how many years the offset is? Is it like a 6, 7, 8 year thing that?
No, so
because I'm just thinking of like the Mr. Pandaria trailer. And
yeah,
like, man, I want to play that game. Is that going to happen in like 8 years, and then they'll just go beyond that?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt in 10 years you're looking at the quality that we're seeing today in trailers, right? But 10 years from now, the trailer quality will have gotten better. And so the point where it ends is when the trailer and the game both get photorealistic quality. So that light behaves properly. You're doing things as complex as hair. You've got multiple light sources, sorry. All of those things sort of interacting in a natural way. That's the point in time when it stops, and then gameplay will catch up, and you won't know whether it's real or it's generated.
And then we're all just jacked into the Matrix, and basically IRL becomes non-existent.
Well, somebody's got to bring you food. But beyond that,
just put stick something in my arm, feed me, whatever. I'll get off this. All right. Next up, HP says Gary often draws parallels between the video game industry and the film industry. In particular, the way employees are hired from certain portions of development, launch, support, and then fired after, since the labor needs over the product life cycle are not constant. In the film industry, there are unions like SAG, to promote the interests of the workers. And basically, he's got a long story short here, but he basically says, do you think the video game industry will ever offer any power to workers like in the film industry, or are individual employees really on their own? Is that right? I mean, are there no unions in the video game industry?
No, there are no unions. And actually, I think the phrase there was, will the industry offer power to the workers, right? No. I mean, come on. No, they won't. And so it's an interesting thing on the film and television side. There was the age of unions when you go back to like the 20s and 30s, and fairly heavily socialist leanings. There was an official communist party in the United States. All that sort of stuff gave rise to unions that exercise power. Now, if you talk to producers and the money folks in Hollywood, they don't like SAG. They don't like the Directors Guild. because they're driving deals for their people, right? And whatever you think about unions, and hey, unions do bad, unions do good. There is something about speaking, in a voice for the people who are doing it. Now, there's three paths to go down here. One is the video game industry isn't really abusive in terms of an industry. We're not sending people into coal mines without adequate ventilation. No people were hurt in the making of Gears of War. That sort of thing is true. There isn't a safety problem. There's also fairly decent compensation in the industry. I mean, you're not paid poorly. What does happen though is things blow up on you, and there's no real safety net, no fallback unless you live in Europe. So socialist countries have pushed out rules on how you can fire people and other things like that, which actually give employees in those countries a little more comfort and safety. On the flip side, when you're dealing with multinationals, they tend to try and avoid hiring in those jurisdictions because it's harder to cut. We go down the path and we say, all right, people are fairly compensated. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about for a couple of months now, and I don't have a solution, but hey, I'm working on it, is there's almost a need for a industry insurance program that's sort of jointly contributed to by employees and employers that says, hey, look, we're going to put in a little bit to augment what happens when a studio blows up. So if it's a regular thing where, hey, we've got 200 employees and we're cutting 20, that doesn't matter. You get a decent severance package. They'll take care of you in a reasonable way. When you have something like what happened to Real Time Worlds, what happened to 38 Studios, and a host of others where they hit the wall and the next day nobody has anything, you didn't even get your last paycheck, you have expenses outstanding, all sorts of things.
Needs to be a little bit of a safety net, and not just for the big wigs and the CEOs, but maybe also for the little guys doing actually all the work.
Yeah, and actually the big wigs get screwed in those too. But everybody needs, some of that coverage because, people have mortgages, they've got kids to take care of. So, I'm looking at it. I'm sure there's people much smarter than me looking at it. I think this is something that the industry itself will create something. It would be very hard to unionize today. I mean, just the laws are against it.
So what do you think about, because I feel what might be concerning from the way his question is phrased is almost to the extent of, on a day-to-day basis, of what the industry would expect of him if he were to get into the games industry, is that, we hear these like long hours, just 80, 90, 100 hours a week maybe. And, with somebody who maybe wants to have a family and things like that, it might just not sound so conducive. And like, there's nothing really to kind of stop them. And there are so many people who want to work in the industry that they can kind of be like, well, it's kind of this way, take the highway or take the, or kind of get out of here.
It's not really like that.
But it's got to be a little demanding, more than the average, like 9 to 5, where it's like you've got a schedule and it's like I clock in at 8 and I go home at 5. Like television's not like that either. So
no, and look, I haven't had a job that had a 40-hour work week ever. It's always been the sort of thing of I was expected to keep working until the work was done.
Yeah,
the work was never done. So every day when I go to bed, I've left a list of things that I knew I should have done today undone, and it's like, if I don't go to bed, I'm just going to die. So that's absolutely true. Now, the interesting thing is when I sit in, management meetings with studios and things like that, they're very concerned about talent. So a lot of the stuff that Agile has brought to the table has reduced the sort of perma-crunch mode that the industry was in. The other thing is there's lots of people trying to get into the industry, but if you are competent, if you've got a few years of experience behind you, you're actually quite valuable. They don't want you to leave. And I know studios that when they get to the point of something bad happens to a studio, one of the titles doesn't do particularly well, there is an executive level meeting where they say, okay, look, we're okay, but we got to make sure all of our key people know we're okay. And I want all of the execs to, come up with a list of who are the top 10 people in your group we want to make sure don't leave, personally reach out to them, let them know they're safe, all that sort of thing. Because it is very hard to find the right talent when you get a team put together. It's a big issue. So
and they also, and I think you said this before, is they don't really want to burn you out. They know this is a long haul. So there's going to be those sprint periods. There's going to be those weeks that you're working your ass off and you're putting in 100 hours a week. It's just going to happen, right? But it's not going to probably be on an every day, or every week, and every month of the entire project basis.
Yeah, they figured out that is completely unproductive. You just get a bunch of zombies, and it works a little bit when you have like sort of cannon fodder, young people straight out of school who, don't have much else to do, and as long as you feed them, they'll stay around and work. And you see that in Silicon Valley a lot. Oracle started it, 20 years ago. If you were still at your desk at 6 p.m., somebody went around and took dinner orders. Well, traffic was miserable in the San Francisco Bay Area. So all the young guys who didn't have a family to get home with stayed at their desk because they got free dinner. Oracle got some more work. They drove home after dinner without any traffic. It wasn't a bad deal. But companies work very hard at keeping employees happy. And when a game company is doing well, they're recruiting aggressively. They're putting out bonuses to get people hired for the right skill level, right? They're doing all that sort of stuff. When they get in trouble, they're trying to make sure their key people are safe. And then the flip side is things go bad, and then they're laying off. But if you're in the right kind of environment, if you're in Vancouver, San Francisco, Seattle, LA, a certain amount in Boston, when layoffs like that happen, you'll actually find it to be somewhat organized, that you have the other major studios in the region start coming and trying to fill their openings. And, I know places where studios shut down, 80-90% of their staff were rehired even before the studio shut down.
All right, next up, this one in from Jay Walker. He says, I hear that the gaming industry is in trouble, but it seems like the World of Tanks guys are buying up troubled studios. What's up with that? Victor's just buying up the industry. That's what he's doing.
That's right. It's, there's two things. I know the World of Tank guys, and so let's start with, is the industry in trouble? The industry's actually not in trouble. Ubisoft, Activision, for sort of core gaming companies, reporting highest earnings ever. The mobile side is going really well. Social is still making money. There's lots of stuff on the horizon, and now you're starting to hear the talk of the next generation of consoles. When that next generation of consoles comes out, we'll see another spike in core game sales, a fairly substantial spike in core game sales. You'll see a whole bunch of studios formed and things grow. So the industry's doing fairly well. Now, Victor's, the guys at World of Tanks, I love these guys. They are just some of the most straightforward, decent folks to deal with. They're doing amazingly well. And so without them having told me, I can assume that they're looking to do one of two things. One is lots of people will buy talent. So they see teams out there that are really talented. Their last project might not have gone so well, or they weren't able to raise enough funding for the next thing they were doing. But the team's rock solid, and you want to hand them some work, that's a great deal. You can buy a team in place, it's worth it. The second thing is, a lot of these guys are just struggling for funding. They didn't have enough money to make the next version of what they were doing, or the new project that they had, and the project itself looks really good, and they're short of capital. So either you go about it like an investor and say, oh, okay, so we'll give you $10 million, and you build this title, and we'll take a piece of it. Or you look and you go, yeah, the way things are, I'll buy all of you for $10 million, and I believe in this thing, I believe in your team. This thing hits big, then all the profits stay with us, and the team does well, and everybody's happy. So, that seems to be the sort of stuff going on. You will always see some of this consolidation when markets and companies hit bumpy parts.
All right, next up, this one from Christopher. He says, hi, he says, we already know that Steambox is more like a software console or some kind of OS, not standard physical console. I wonder, will Sony and Microsoft feature Steambox on next PlayStation or an Xbox, or this feature, will it be added by hackers? Great show. Cheers, Christopher. So first up, I mean, do you think there's any possibility that those consoles would offer a Steam client? I agree.
No,
no way in hell.
You will see both of them come out with their own version of Steam. There's lots of concern that Steam's the new GameStop. Gabe Newell, actually, at DICE. So Gabe's the CEO of Valve, and DICE is the big it's the show where the senior execs go, and you get a lot of straight talk. He talked about, Steam being too powerful and, too much being concentrated in the industry on Steam. So there's no way that Microsoft or Sony is going to give up that retail footprint on their devices. And, when it comes to be added by hackers, no. The anti-hacking, the anti-remote install, a lot of the anti-use software stuff that, you hear rumors of, all of that stuff is going to be really solid in these things, because if they can't break the back of the used software business and increase sort of the revenue per attachment, so each game sold an attachment, if they can't increase revenue per attachment, then they know they have a problem. And so, the new consoles, you're going to see them being a really good home entertainment center. I might be misremembering this, but I thought I heard something that Microsoft was making more off their MLB streaming than they were off a bunch of the games that they were doing.
I totally believe that.
With cord cutting and things like that going on, hey, I don't need a TV if I get Hulu, I get Netflix, and you stream all my sports packages. Hey, our good friends at Netflix, thank you very much. That's a great business for them, and so they're going to have that, but they're going to do everything they can to make you want to buy new games and use them. So I don't see Steam happening. I think Valve is going down the path that Google kind of did of, hey, here's an operating system, go ahead and build any device, and we're going to leverage all these device manufacturers. I think they end up seeing the same problems that Google did. Like, Valve are awesome company, really smart guys, but they're software guys. And software guys think differently than hardware guys. And so, it's going to be interesting to see. I think it is. I think it's going to be a struggle, but we'll see.
What do you think a big defining factor in Steambox actually taking off would be? Like, do you think? I think one is probably going to be price point for sure. It's basically, isn't it basically a PC? I mean, it's basically going to be a PC, like just built with the Steam client, because they've got the whole big picture technology now on the Steam client, which is kind of, I guess, what they're going to be building into Steam, or the box.
Yeah, but then I look at, okay, so what titles are they going to put on it, right? So if they put standard PC titles on it, but I'm using it on my TV set, then I've got interface issues. Like, so I need wireless keyboard and mouse. Where I sit in my family room, not a great place for a wireless keyboard and mouse. My wife would be putting them away to clean up. I'd never find the damn things. Thank God she doesn't watch my show. So there's a lot of issues around this sort of thing to make it successful. Are they going to try and replace a PC? That would be kind of interesting if there was a way to do it, but hardware's a crappy business. It's low margin, high volume, tough to do.
Yeah, I don't fully understand the market they're going after here, because Steam is very much a PC market, obviously. And PC gamers are kind of tech savvy and know how to swap a video card out, and they kind of get I don't really know who would go to the store to buy the Steambox. It's just like, who are you really because the people who are going to buy a console are like console players. I don't know. It seems like it's a very weird gray area to go into.
Yeah, and if they're going to compete against the consoles, then that whole entertainment package side of things, you know, music, sports, all that sort of content, they're going to have to cut deals for that. And again, a very, very different business than what Valve is in.
Going to be interesting. All right, last up this week from Ryan Cote says, you have touched on getting into the game industry a few times. However, I was wondering, how does someone like you and me find out what companies are around my location and then find out if they are hiring for any positions? A lot of them also ask for 1 year experience, which most new people wouldn't have. Any thoughts?
Yeah,
the internet is your friend.
Game Dev Map is a site that has, you know, a map on it. You click on it and tells you about game developers in the region. The other thing would be is check out your local chapter of IGDA, the Independent Game Developers Association. IGDA's members tend to be smaller. You know, look at that. And then we've talked about this before. Hey, you are a fast man on the keyboard, my friend.
I like that. I like that. You like
That's
that?
Good.
Interactive. Good. I never saw this before. Now I'm all intrigued. I'm like, I've never been on this. What is this?
Yeah. It's somewhat, some of the data is dated and old, but at least it gives you a sense of what's going on. And then the other thing that you look at is local events. So if you're a programmer, find out about Unity group meetings. You know, if you're into art, check out whether Adobe or Autodesk has things happening in your region. And so when you do that, you'll see, you know, a whole bunch of people. You'll get connected into your local community. Now,
Des Moines, Iowa's got Intuition Games. I'm trying to find these like weird remote areas of just like Tulsa. Who's in Tulsa? You've got 2015 Goldfire Studios and Tornado Studios. There you go.
See? Isn't this a great thing?
This is a great tool. Sorry, continue.
So, you know, so find these local associations. I mean, I have been to, I don't know, I've been to 5 meetings in the last week and a half. Like almost every evening, I'm going to another one tomorrow night. You know, going in and it's a bunch of game developers who are hanging out, who are talking. You get a presentation. We had a mind-numbing one on art yesterday, which every time I try and understand, I realize I don't get art. And I don't think the speaker did either, but because he said everything's art and nothing's art. And either that was art or I don't understand. Anyway, you go to these things, you meet people, you get hooked in, and then when it comes to that 1 year's experience, go indie. You've got whatever skills you have, you'll find a whole bunch of people who are doing it as a second job and start working with them. Do the game jams, enter in places, you will get to know people. A lot of times when a company says 1 year experience required, it's to get rid of the chaff, because you get a whole bunch of hobos and stuff applying for jobs.
Yeah.
And, you know, really, you go to these things, you get to know them, and they go, huh, this guy's actually bright, is normal. You know, let's give him a shot at an entry position.
Yeah, it's definitely not set in stone. And also, so you got Game Dev Map, you got the game jams, all this stuff. And also, if you can afford it, save your pennies, but you probably want to start hitting things like the Game Developers Conference coming up to San Francisco. You know, it's definitely, you got to probably jump on a plane, but almost every game developer there who's relevant is going to be there, and you'll definitely probably meet just some people out at the bars and hanging out and stuff, so it's definitely a good place to network and meet more people.
If you live in Seattle or Boston, go to PAX. Both of them have these indie mega booths, which are the local companies that, you know, a lot of people haven't heard of. You can meet folks there. All that, as long as when you go to either, you know, networking events or something like PAX or GDC, 2 things. One is talk to people. Second is make sure you've taken a shower.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes, especially at PAX. And I'd say the third thing is my only suggestion would be don't take up too much of their time. I do end up you probably run to this as well, but I end up meeting people sometimes at events and conferences, and they're just like, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you, blah, 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 and they want to talk to you. And you're like, and I'm totally like, I want to talk to you like this. But there's a point when our conversation is kind of over and I probably have to go do other things. Don't be that guy or gal standing around hovering and kind of, because then you go into Creepville zone, and then that's going to give a bad taste. Like, come in, network, say hello, try and do some quick chit chat, whatever. And when it feels like it's time to go.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be nice. Because we're there too to meet people, but you want to meet a whole bunch of people.
Exactly. Move around the room, network. There's a whole bunch of other people there to meet. Monty Sharma, follow him on the Twitter at Monster, MONTSTER27, Monster27. And if you have a question for Monty's Minute, you can email us at monty@gamebreaker.tv. And we're still waiting for video questions. If you guys got a video question, record yourself, post it to YouTube, and send us the URL at Monster.
You could be famous.
You could be famous. We'll post it on the show. Send your questions. Monty's got all the answers about the video game industry. Monty, another great week. See you next week, my friend.
All right, we'll see you there.
We'll see you next time.